Jake Morrison's hands wouldn't stop shaking. The ceremonial chamber on planet Velara glowed with bioluminescent patterns that hurt his eyes, and the translation device in his ear kept cutting out. He stood before Princess Keira, her silver skin shimmering under alien starlight, ready to complete the diplomatic marriage that would cement the alliance between Earth and Velara. Standard procedure, symbolic gesture. He'd done harder things in the Marines. Then 2 more figures stepped from the shadows. "Wait," Jake said, his voice cracking. "What's happening?" The translator finally caught up. "The bonding ceremony requires all 3 life partners to participate. You are now bound to Keira, Lyra, and Nara of House Valentine." Jake's stomach dropped. 3. He'd married 3 alien princesses. The Velaran officials looked confused by his shock. Keira, tall and armored, tilted her head. Lyra, smaller with curious eyes that shifted through colors, tapped a data slate. Nara, ethereal and unsettling, simply smiled like she could read his panic. "There's been a mistake," Jake started. "The bond is complete," Keira said. Her voice carried authority that made his Marine training kick in. To reject it now would be considered an act of war against Velara. Jake looked at the Earth ambassador, who had gone pale. No help there. He turned back to the 3 women who were apparently now his wives. Lyra spoke next, her tone clinical. "Our species bonds in triads. The translation matrix failed to convey this." "You agreed to the full ceremony." "This is insane," Jake muttered. Nara stepped closer, and suddenly he felt calm. Too calm. "You will understand in time, Jake Morrison. This bond may save both our worlds." The first week was chaos. Jake tried to navigate the impossible dynamics of 3 wives from an alien culture he barely understood. Keira spent her days training with weapons that could slice through starship hulls. Lyra disappeared into laboratories filled with technology that made Earth's best scientists look like children. Nara meditated in gardens that shouldn't exist on a space station, manipulating emotions of everyone nearby. They lived in separate quarters. They barely spoke to him. Jake felt like a prisoner in a gilded cage. On the 8th day, Earth Command contacted him with orders to make it work, no matter what. The alliance was too important. Humanity needed Velara's advanced technology and military strength. The Void Collective was coming. "What's the Void Collective?" Jake asked Lyra that evening. She looked up from her work, surprised he'd sought her out. "An ancient enemy. They consume entire civilizations, strip worlds of all resources, leave nothing behind. They've been moving through this sector for 3,000 years, and Earth's in their path. Yes, your species is perhaps 5 years before they arrive. Maybe less." Lyra's eyes shifted to deep purple, a color Jake had learned meant concern. "That's why we needed this alliance. That's why the bond was necessary. You could have just asked for help. You didn't need to trick me into marrying you. We did ask." Lyra pulled up holographic records. 73 diplomatic requests over 2 years. "Your leaders debated while the threat grew closer. We needed certainty. We needed blood ties." Jake stared at the records. She wasn't lying. Earth had wasted time while doom approached. "So I'm what, insurance? You're a bridge. Each of us brings something your species needs. Keira can teach your warriors to fight the void. My research can upgrade your weapons and ships. Nara can help your people prepare mentally for what's coming." Lyra stepped closer. "But it only works if the bond is real, if we trust each other. Trust takes time. Time is what we don't have." The alarm cut through their conversation. Red light flooded the station. Jake's military instincts kicked in before his mind caught up. He followed Lyra to the command center where Keira was already coordinating defensive positions. Nara appeared from nowhere, her usual calm replaced with urgency. "Void scout ships," Keira announced. "Vessels. They've engaged the outer defense platforms." On the screens, Jake watched alien ships unlike anything in Earth's databases tear through Velaran defenses. They move wrong, phased through shields, adapted to every weapon fired at them. "They're testing us," Nara said, measuring our response. Jake studied the battle patterns. Years of tactical training kicked in. "They're predictable. Look, they adapt to each weapon, but they don't anticipate combinations. You're fighting them one-on-one." Keira turned to him. Elaborate. Hit them with everything at once. Different weapons, different angles. Overload their adaptation cycles. For a moment, nobody moved. Then Keira started issuing orders in her own language. The Velaran fleet shifted tactics, coordinating strikes that had been individual before. The lead void ship shuddered, its shields collapsing under the combined assault. "It's working," Lyra whispered. The void ships retreated into faster-than-light travel, disappearing from sensors. The command center erupted in relief, but Keira looked grim. They'll return with more. This was reconnaissance. Jake felt 3 pairs of eyes on him. "You saw what we couldn't," Nara said. "Human tactical thinking operates differently than ours." "We're used to being outgunned," Jake replied. "We learned to improvise." Keira approached him, and for the first time, she smiled. "Perhaps this bond has merit after all." The trials began the next day. Velaran tradition required Jake to prove himself worthy of each wife through challenges designed to test character. Keira went first, leading him into a combat arena filled with weapons and obstacles. "Survive 15 minutes, she said. "Use any method you choose." The training drones activated, armed with non-lethal but painful weaponry. Jake dove behind cover as energy blasts scorched the air where he'd been standing. He grabbed a Velaran rifle, but the grip was wrong for human hands. Useless. He dropped it and ran. Keira watched from the observation deck as Jake used guerrilla tactics, staying mobile, using the environment. He didn't fight the drones head-on. He led them into crossfire, made them destroy each other, turned their superior firepower into a weakness. When the timer ended, Jake was bruised and exhausted but standing. Keira descended to the arena floor. "Humans are smaller, weaker, slower than Velarans. Yet you survived what would challenge our warriors. How?" "We don't fight fair," Jake panted. "We fight to win." She clasped his shoulder with genuine respect. "I can work with that." Lyra's trial was mental. She placed him in a simulation chamber and flooded his mind with impossible physics problems, alien mathematics, scenarios with no clear solutions. Jake's head pounded as he struggled with concepts Earth science hadn't even theorized. He failed most of the tests, but he kept trying, approaching each problem from different angles, asking questions Lyra hadn't considered. "You're not getting it right," Lyra said, frustration creeping into her voice. "No," Jake agreed, "but I'm getting it wrong in new ways every time." "That's how we learn." Lyra stopped the simulation. "Humans have been in space for barely 2 centuries. You should be terrified of the unknown." "We are," Jake said. "We explore anyway." Her eyes shifted through a rainbow of colors before settling on gold. Approval. "Your species may be more resilient than I calculated." Nara's trial was the hardest. She took him to her meditation garden and asked him to sit in silence while she opened his mind to the bond. Jake felt her presence, felt Kira's burning determination, Lyra's endless curiosity, and beneath it all, their fear. They were terrified the alliance would fail. Terrified the void would destroy everything. Terrified he would reject them. "I'm scared too," Jake admitted aloud. Nara's eyes opened. "I know. I feel it. But you don't run from fear. Humans never do." "We run all the time," Jake said. "We just run forward." The main assault came without warning. 50 void ships materialized across Velaran's space and human colonies simultaneously. The Void Collective wasn't testing anymore. They were invading. Jake found himself in the war room with the 3 sisters and the combined human Velaran fleet command. Chaos reigned as reports flooded in. Stations destroyed, colonies under siege. The Void adapted to every defense faster than predicted. "We need to evacuate the Centauri colonies," the human admiral argued. "If we retreat, the Void will pursue," Keira countered. "We must hold the line." They were going to lose. Jake could see it in the projections, in the casualty counts climbing by the second. Traditional warfare wouldn't work. The Void had fought civilizations far more advanced than Earth or Velara. "We're thinking about this wrong," Jake said. Everyone turned to him. "The Void is ancient. They've seen every strategy, every weapon. They've fought species with thousands of years of military history." "Then how do we win?" Lyra asked. "We don't fight like them. We fight like humans. We fight dirty." Jake outlined a plan so reckless that half the commanders called him insane. Use human civilian ships as decoys. Hide Velaran dreadnoughts in asteroid fields. Fake retreat to draw the void into kill zones. Mix human explosives with Velaran energy weapons in ways that violated every safety protocol. This could work, Keira said slowly. Or it could fail catastrophically. It's our only shot, Jake replied. The battle lasted 14 hours. Jake coordinated from the flagship while Keira led the combat wings. Lyra managed the technical systems, and Nara maintained morale across the fleet through her empathic abilities. They worked as one unit, the bond between them translating into perfect coordination. The human decoy fleet drew the Void Vanguard into the trap. Velaran ships emerged from hiding, weapons charged with experimental combinations that Lyra had developed in real time. The Void ships tried to adapt, but Jake kept changing tactics every 3 minutes. Too fast, too unpredictable. Then the Void adapted anyway. They learned. They started predicting human unpredictability, turning Jake's own strategy against them. The fleet began taking heavy losses. We need to retreat, the Admiral urged. No, Jake said. We need to be more human. He ordered every ship to go fully independent. No coordination, no pattern. Pure chaos. Captains made their own decisions, attacked on instinct, invented tactics on the fly. The Void's adaptive algorithms couldn't handle true randomness. The tide turned. The Void fleet began to fracture, unable to compensate for thousands of independent actors all fighting differently. But victory came with a price. A Void dreadnought broke through the lines, heading straight for a human evacuation convoy. Keira took her personal fighter and intercepted. Jake watched the sensors as she pushed her ship beyond its limits, her warrior instincts against impossible odds. The Void ship's weapons locked onto the convoy, charging a weapon that would destroy everything. Keira rammed it at full speed. The explosion registered across every screen. Then silence. Jake couldn't breathe. Nara gasped, clutching her chest. Lyra's eyes went black with grief. "Keira!" Jake whispered. The sensors flickered. A small escape pod, badly damaged, drifting in the debris. Life signs. Barely. Jake ordered immediate retrieval. And for the first time since the ceremony, he understood what the bond meant. Keira wasn't just a diplomatic arrangement. She was his wife. And he'd almost lost her. The remaining Void ships retreated. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. In the medical bay, Jake sat beside Kira's recovery pod while Lyra worked frantically to save her. Nara held Jake's hand, sharing his fear, his hope. "She'll survive," Lyra said finally. "Like humans," Jake replied. Kira's eyes opened, finding Jake immediately. "Did we win?" "Yeah," Jake said, squeezing her hand through the pod's field. "We won." In the aftermath, as both species counted their losses and celebrated their survival, Jake stood with his 3 wives and finally understood. The bond wasn't a trick or a political maneuver. It was exactly what Nara had said from the beginning. The thing that would save both their worlds. Humans brought chaos, adaptability, and the stubborn refusal to accept defeat. Velarans brought power, knowledge, and ancient wisdom. Together, they were something the Void Collective had never encountered. Something that could push back against the darkness. Jake looked at Keira, still recovering but already planning the next battle. At Lyra, designing weapons that would make the Void think twice. At Nara, her calm smile promising that no matter what came, they would face it together. "So," Jake said, 3 wives. Could be worse." Keira laughed, then winced. "You're stuck with us now, human." "Stuck isn't the word I'd use," Jake replied. Nara's smile widened. "What word would you use?" Jake thought about Earth, about humanity standing on the edge of extinction and choosing to fight instead. About 3 alien women who had given his species a chance. About bonds forged in fire that nothing could break. "Lucky," he said finally. "I'd say I'm lucky." The Void would return. The war would continue. But humanity had proven itself, and the alliance was no longer just words on a treaty. It was real. It was tested. And it would endure. Because humans never quit. And now, neither would their allies.